hear it.
Can I do the Bominoka? All right.
Welcome, everyone. It is Awful Takes Review special audio episode.
The long-awaited,
the highly anticipated review of one of the box office bombs of the year, Furiosa. Unfortunately, we are here. We've both seen Furiosa. I've seen it twice now. Walid, what about you?
I have seen it twice also. So I saw it the first time actually in theaters when it came out. And I remember being just like, yeah, it's good, but it didn't really connect or click with me. I wasn't really a big fan of like the first two chapters when I saw it. But then I saw it a second time a couple days ago. And I don't know what happened, but just everything clicked. Everything made sense. Everything felt like even the first two chapters that I didn't care for felt essential to Furiosa's character and her whole journey, which surprised me a lot. And I was surprised how invested I got really quickly. Like the film really just grabs your attention like from the moment it begins.
Yeah. I agree with pretty much everything you're saying. When I first saw it, I was expecting something similar to Fury Road. And I will say, while I was watching it, it just started to dawn on me that no, this is a different movie. This is its own thing. It's not trying to mimic Fury Road. It's not trying to copy it. Obviously, I have not been shy about it. Fury Road is one of my favorite films of all time. So I was obviously highly anticipating this movie. However, when it did come out and I was watching it, I guess I kind of did feel a little disappointed to an extent. Not that I thought it was a letdown or anything, but I was just like, this is a very different kind of film, you know? I was expecting one thing, but I got another thing. But that other thing I still really liked, loved, and enjoyed. And I feel like they almost work as like a companion piece to each other very, very well. They complement each other very well. And it really just delves more into some of my interests with Fury Road. Obviously, the title of the film, Furiosa. She was a big takeaway when I saw Fury Road. So obviously there was a lot of interest there. So yeah, I've told Walid this is probably my favorite movie of the year so far that I've seen. I'm waiting for another film to come along and hopefully surpass this. But this is a type of movie for me that really just reminds me why I love film and really just reminds me what this medium I enjoy about so much, you know, down to the costumes, down to the performances, down to the, you know, camera work, down to the directing, action sequences, character design, the not even like character design, but these cars in this movie, like everything just feels like each department was just in full service of this vision. It was just an amalgamation of all the best parts of film put together into one like unique vision, you know? And I just love seeing films like that. It just feels rewarding, and it feels like I can't imagine what it'd be like to be on this set. This must just be so much fun. I would just love to
having the time of your life.
Have the time of my life and just, you know, even be an extra in the background. I would just enjoy that so much. But yeah, I guess we'll start getting into it. Just a little back knowledge with me. I had not seen a Mad Max movie. I went to go see Fury Road. My brother and sister kind of forced me to go see it. They were like, let's go watch it. And I remember seeing the trailers and I was like, that looks dumb. I don't want to see that. And they bought my ticket and they were like, well, we have it, so you might as well go. So I was like, all right, I'll go. Whatever. And I was just going into it with a just pure cynical mentality. I was like, this movie's going to suck. I'm going to hate it. And I was just being super down and not really opening myself up. Yet throughout the course of the movie and watching it, I was just slowly hitting myself in the head. Like, why was I thinking this? Why did I have that mentality? And I ended up loving Fury Road. And it was in the same year that Star Wars came out, Star Wars big return to theaters. It was the same year as Inside Out. It's just, it surpassed all those films that I was looking forward to. And I was just like, wow, I was a movie that I wanted to hate and I thought I was going to hate ended up being my favorite movie of the year that year so far, or that year, period. And, you just have to respect the filmmaking that goes into that. They portray something that you don't even know you want, yet they make you want it. That is
Yeah.
just the true testament of a good filmmaker, a good storyteller. And, I ended up leaving that movie so excited for more. And I ended up watching all the old Mad Max movies, which I'd never seen, enjoy those as well. But I was always wanting the follow up. So I guess this kind of serves as that. But as you watch it, you're like, you know what? This is not a follow up. This is
more of like a prequel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really just takes one character from Fury Road and just expands on it in such a deep, impactful way. Walid, what were you? Were you into the Mad Max franchise? Have you seen any of the other movies?
So for me, I'm actually the opposite with Nabahi. I actually have never seen any of the Mad Max films before. Mad Max Fury Road is on my watch list, and it's a film I do want to watch at some point after seeing this film but I would say for me, I was kind of more of a newer viewer. So Furiosa, I guess you could say, is my first Mad Max film, which maybe isn't the best idea, but I think after seeing it a second time, it really goes to show you just how incredible George Miller uses world building really well, and especially how he uses like the use of like oranges and yellows, and especially like in the nighttime. Like that really stood out to me in the first two chapters, was those night sequences and how it was using blues and like the blacks and everything. It was a really beautiful color contrast that George Miller has with this film, at least. One thing I'll say too is also just the action in the film just really grabs you. Like you get super invested so quickly, not only in like the action of just like if they're gonna make it out alive or not, and just like how detailed everything is with like the camera work and just like the characters and even like just the extras and like the stunt people. I'm just like I gotta wonder to myself, like, how many takes did that take to like get all of those like action sequences done right? And then on top of it, like one thing that really surprised me was just the drama of the film and how invested I got even more with like Dementis and Furiosa's relationship. It's almost like a kind of weird, like messed up version of like a father-daughter bonding type of thing. And I think the film really, I feel like, is like the emotional core of the film overall for me.
No, I agree with everything you're saying. So going into this movie, I thought it was going to be something a lot more conventional. I thought it was going to be like Fury Road, to the point, doesn't really take its time. And while that first chapter was going on, I was just like, this is pretty drawn out, Like,
I was surprised how those first two chapters really take up the first hour of the film. And that was my biggest issue when I first saw it, because I was like, I don't know if we need all this time with the character. But I think after seeing it, it was like, okay, I can see why they would put a lot of focus on Furiosa as a kid, and especially shows like not only her relationship with Dementis, but with her first interaction with Immortan Joe and going to work with him in the third and fourth chapters that come later on. And I was like, okay, like that fits actually really perfectly, and it surprisingly doesn't ruin the pace of the film at all. You're still super invested.
Yeah, and the first chapter for me really just kind of sets the tone of the world we're living in. Obviously, George Miller has said in his Mad Max movies, the world is very much a integral character to the story you are watching unfold. And I've heard storytellers say that, yet in this specific instance, in this media, I feel it so much. Obviously, when the movie starts out, they're in the green place, and, they're getting resources. She's trying to get like an apple, and you see this gang that's in there, the biker gang, and they obviously have different intents as to why they're there. And already you're showing a contrast of how people would view pretty much an oasis like this place. To Furiosa and the Volvolini people, it is very much almost like a sacred thing. it's something that they protect, and they keep hidden from everyone else. You know,
it seems like the heavens compared to like everything else in like the world and everything we, at least I see in the film and everything.
Yeah, and it shows very much a survivalist mentality in a post-apocalyptic world. Do you try to change the things around you, or do you try to protect and hold on to something that has meaning to you? And I think that is kind of the Mad Max movies in an essence of showing the reaction to this post-apocalyptic world. Right away, it shows how resourceful Furiosa is. It shows how resourceful this biker gang is, you know, like there's a long chase sequence that really shows the span of not only distance, but the span of how far someone's willing to go to protect someone. You know, it shows Furiosa's mom. I think they were chasing each other. She was chasing that gang for a couple of days, I'm pretty sure.
It had to have been, especially because they do stop at one point at like the nighttime. You know, because Furiosa bites the
gas line
the
or
gas
something.
line, which was kind of gross. I was like, oh,
yeah.
nasty. But it shows the passage of time really well. I was very surprised by that. With seeing it the second time, I was like, man, it really does feel like a couple of days, you know?
Yeah. And then it shows like Furiosa's mom, she has the horse, and then she switches to the bike, and then she ends up one of the tires, she switches it with another bike, and it just shows you like, okay, these people know the world they're in, and what do they do to survive? What do they do
with the very limited resources that they do have?
Yeah, and it really just shows the intelligence of both sides, you know, like everything is a resource, everything is usable. People, I know, I have a friend of mine, if his car breaks down, he starts thinking about buying a new car, you know? And it's for them, they push this stuff past what it's supposed to. And I don't know, that really gives a sense of authenticity. Yet this movie kind of doesn't need to do that, but I'm glad it's there, you know? Like, this movie is obviously with the biker gang, Immortan Joe. These guys are very, very much movie characters. These are very over the top, crazy people.
Yeah.
Yet they have that sense of authenticity with the world around them.
I would say it like just sucks you into the world. I think even more, you know, it really just puts you in that wasteland with these characters.
Yeah. And as that first chapter goes along, you're really seeing the results of taking something that doesn't belong to you yet has meaning to someone else. Obviously, Furiosa is taken. She's introduced to Dementus. Love his introduction, by the way.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, just even that name, hearing that name Dementus, I was just like, what the hell?
It's very demented, that's for sure.
It's just such like a funny, creative name. And I was just like, I don't know. That was something that I was just like, how do they come up with this? Like, that's so funny.
And then you were talking about like this, the over the top nature with some of the stuff, but I think Chris Hemsworth, gives one of the best performances in that film. Like, he really amps up any scene that he's in, you know. He really uses over the top to like another level, I would feel. You know?
And it really just helps you, like, you don't like Dementus, but he has like a charm to him that is just like, man, I just love watching this guy. I don't know what it is. He's like kind of a
goofball almost.
Yeah. And it's like, I think they were trying to do a stark contrast to Immortan Joe, because obviously when you see Immortan Joe, he's much more quiet. You can just tell he has that menacing look and stare.
Very intimidating.
And it's funny because Chris Hemsworth is like physically bigger, stronger, looks intimidating, yet he doesn't seem as intimidating as Immortan Joe, you know? And obviously when he's introduced, he has like on this white robe, which pretty much has like a character evolution in this movie. But he has on like this white robe. You can tell that he is above everyone else. He's kind of like created.
He's like one of the leaders pretty much in this world.
And he's in charge of this gang and everything. And it goes, especially in that intro, it goes really shows how gruesome the world is. They're interrogating one of these guys. They're trying to find out where this green place is. Furiosa doesn't want to tell them. She stays quiet because that's what her mother pretty much told her. Like, people can't find out.
Don't spill the beans.
Yeah. They cut this guy's throat. and then they hang him upside down, and they're basically like, draw a map, draw. And I was just like,
That was really disturbing.
this is gruesome.
Yeah, and the music in that scene too, it just the way it was building up and rising, I thought was like even added more to just like the intensity of that scene.
Yeah, and you just see Dementus, like, this just doesn't faze him. This is just something that he's used to, and he's trying to connect with this little girl. I think that is a big part of these first 2 chapters, is showing Furiosa's reaction to this world around her. Obviously, she's been in this oasis a long time. Pretty much, I'm pretty sure that could be all she kind of knows.
That's like, that's been her whole life pretty much.
Yeah. And to be taken out of that, I felt like it was very much needed to spend time with her in that time period to really show what she's taking in. Obviously, these people getting tortured. There's more stuff like that. Having these people see her as a commodity, pretty much. They will use her for things, and it's just like, and it'll show her reaction. It'll cut to her, and you can just tell she's processing everything.
Yeah, she's kind of bottling a lot of things up too, you know?
Yeah.
And I love that. I mean, I would even say throughout the film, she's very quiet. She really doesn't say a lot of lines.
Yeah, very much like a silent protagonist. And obviously, her mom finds her, ends up escaping. And while they're escaping, I thought it was just an effective scene. Furiosa's mom pretty much starts killing people to get back Furiosa.
Yeah.
And she comes across this other lady, and this other lady plays to that aspect of, hey, I'm a mom too, you know? And you could just tell that really made Furiosa's mom kind of question what she was doing a little bit.
Made her more empathetic.
Yeah. And she played into that empathy. And obviously the mom ends up portraying her anyways.
Of course, sign of manipulation.
Yeah. And it's just like, I think Furiosa saw that and really took that for what it was. You know, people are going to manipulate. They're going to try to get you to bend to their will. They might even play into this sympathetic card a little bit. And her seeing that, I think, does make her more closed off later in the movie.
Especially because she can't really trust anybody in this world. Also, I think that's one thing I feel like she learns a lot from those first 2 chapters, is that she can't trust anyone.
Yeah.
You know? Anybody will do anything to like take advantage or manipulate in any way, shape, or form.
And they end up escaping that area, and then the biker gang ends up catching up to them. They end up torturing the mom. They're still trying to find out this place, and Furiosa has to end up watching her mom die.
Which really kind of got to me the second time. I was like, man, like that's kind of all the family she has pretty much.
Yeah. And Dementus really makes it a point that, Furiosa, you're going to watch your mom die. Like, he goes up to her, holds her eyes open. And obviously the shot ends with that zoom in on her eye, and her mom's dying.
And the teardrops too, they even try to use that as like a resource.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's just like
really messed up.
Good Lord, you know?
Yeah.
But they also show that this is so far removed from the world we know that you have characters like that history man who kind of know what the world was like beforehand.
Yeah.
And Dementus, like, he doesn't even know like some of the subtleties of humanity, what they were at one point.
Yeah.
And he needs that guy there to kind of explain what stuff is, you know?
Yeah, he added a lot to the film too.
Yeah.
And just like the whole kind of somewhat lore and history that we would get with the film. You know?
And I feel like it really helps serve that contrast of, this is so far removed from anywhere where we are today.
Of course, yeah.
But anyways, that first chapter ends up ending on that note. There's maybe a little bit of a time jump, probably just maybe like a couple months or something.
Yeah, because she's still like really young.
Yeah. And then it picks up. We see Furiosa with Dementus's gang and everything. And again, they show the brutality of this world. It kept surprising me in this movie, in media and everything. You know, you get accustomed to violence and things like that, and you feel like you've seen it all. Yet this movie kept surprising me with how
Gets pretty
graphic.
creative. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what?
With the
like
5 motorcycles and
just pull the guy apart, and I was just like, oh
that
my
was really
god.
disturbing.
And then they like make each other like fight for like a position to where they aren't gonna die, and I was just like, what the heck is this?
Really just shows you like just the wild side of the wasteland. It does a really good job of like showing like how far these people have gone just from society and everything. And it's like you see just they almost become like animals in that sense.
Yeah. They're just stripped down to the most basic instinct,
Yeah.
And it doesn't shy away from it. And it really sets the world. Again, it sets everything that you're watching. If you were watching this for the first time, this movie does a very good job of, you know what, this is part of a franchise, but you don't really need to have seen the other ones. You know?
Which I definitely felt seeing it the second time. And I felt like first time seeing it, I was like, I don't know if I should have just seen the other ones first, but I feel like watching it the second time and by the time it was over, it made me realize I was like, this is kind of more of like its own thing. It doesn't really feel like a prequel film, because I kind of have that issue a lot with prequels where it's like it has to explain every single thing to you, like a Solo where it's you got to explain, oh, how did she get her name? Oh, how did she do this? And everything's kind of pretty quick, but I feel like this film kind of stands on its own, surprisingly, seeing it the second time. It's like you really don't have to see the other ones, but I really loved that. And I loved that, like, it kind of didn't take those tropes and cliches, and rather than it being quick, you get time to spend with not only the characters, but just like the world and the atmosphere and what the world was kind of like before, like a Fury Road or before, I guess, those other Mad Max films, if they're connected somehow. But
I guess with the Mad Max movies, it does always feel like kind of like watching old westerns, just like kind of like a one-off story pretty much. And then that it's very conclusive, and then you're on to the next one. That was always the feeling invoked with those movies. And I feel like Furiosa kind of does the same thing, but it also really sets up what happens in Fury Road.
Yeah, it seems to transition well into the end, which we'll get into.
Yeah. Second chapter, I really enjoyed. I felt like it sets up that conflict and contrast between Dementis and Immortan Joe so well. Obviously, we know who Immortan Joe is if you've seen Fury Road, and to create an opposition for him, but again, you make him so much different than your intimidating war leader. It's very, very entertaining to see those two stand off, and it happens in such a great way. Dementis, they go to Immortan Joe's Citadel, and it's so funny. There's so many funny parts in that scene. Like one of his servants, like when they pull up, he like revs his hands like a motorcycle, and then they all rev their bikes.
That was awesome.
To like intimidate them.
That was like one of my favorite sound design choices in the film.
And then not even just to mention, I just gotta throw it out there. Dementis's chariot of bikes is like the funniest thing. Like if I could have one of those and drive that around, like I would just love it. Like that thing is so funny. Like he thinks he's like probably like some Roman figure in mythology, and he's probably like heard from this history man about these figures. Yeah, he has to replicate it in his own way. They don't have horses,
of course.
So he just strings together a bunch of motorcycles.
Puts his own unique spin on it.
Yeah, it's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen, but for some reason it really adds to his character, how he views himself. But anyways, they show up at the Citadel. You could tell that Dementis is really trying to intimidate them when he doesn't have the leg up in this situation. They're just on a bunch of bikes. You're standing in front of a citadel that's a skyscraper. You see all these people, you see everything. And Dementis is very much trying to make a show, trying to show that, I'm not intimidated. I'm here to take you over. Immortan Joe has pretty much no dialogue. All these other people are speaking for him. And it shows that contrast of,
I think that's what makes him even more intimidating, honestly.
Like it just doesn't faze him. He's just like, whatever. And then a lot of the side characters are introduced, like Rictus And then my other favorite one, Scrotus. Absolutely ridiculous. When he said, my name's Scrotus, I remember me and my siblings were dying. We thought it was so funny. Yet he says it in like such a serious way.
Yeah.
And just that contrast of the people up there, like you have the people eater, and he's like this fat guy with like
a suit. I thought that was really
tassels.
funny. I was like he feels kind of out of place in this world.
Yeah. You have Rictus. He's like this roided up giant crazy guy.
Yeah.
Yet he has like these breathing mechanics or whatever on his back. And then you have Scrotus. He looks all deformed.
Yeah.
Then you have a Morton Joe. A Morton Joe has like this chest armor with like these medals on it and stuff.
Like this really cool like mouth mask.
Yeah, just
again, the costume
crazy.
design is fantastic in this film.
Yeah. And then a Morton Joe pretty much has the mic drop moment of he sends one of his war boys. He's like, show them pretty much. And it just shows that these people are willing to die for this guy. They believe in him that much.
Yeah, it's almost like a cult.
Yeah, and it's not like Dementus. Like very much in this conflict, all the people start leaving. They don't even care about Dementus at that point. He's kind of left there and trying to get everything, together, get Furiosa out of there.
I was surprised he saved her. I didn't think he was actually going to save her, honestly.
Yeah, and I think they do show that emotional side to him, that he does kind of care. He wants this kind of relationship with her of like, I'm your father, And
I feel like especially because the teddy bear he has plays such a vital role in that film also. And it gives you kind of an interpretation of like, maybe he did have a daughter at some point, and she ended up dying or something.
Yeah. It just shows that, Immortan Joe, what Dementus wants, Immortan Joe already has. He has the following. He has the people who see him as this larger than life figure. I feel like with Dementus, the gang mentality is very much we're stronger in a group. They don't really feel in service of him.
They're more of a tribe.
Yeah, because later on you see people kind of call Dementus out, but we'll get to that. So yeah, that to me was just a great scene. Great visual stuff going on. Also some humor in the movie that I really thought was funny. Really awesome setting up these two opposing sides. Throughout this movie, I will address it probably right now. When I first saw it in IMAX. Wow. Great big visual screen, everything. I was just loving it. However, upon rewatch at home, I will say there are some CGI moments in the film that do stand out to me. It's not as concise as Fury Road is. There are some parts that very much you can just tell, okay, this is kind of a green screen. This isn't really, the lighting isn't matching.
Yeah.
But then there are also some really good CGI elements that I didn't notice.
I would say for the first two chapters, I do still have that issue of like some of the CG being a bit distracting. But I will say in the later chapters, the CG looks a million times better.
Yeah. There were some elements that I didn't even stand out to me. Like I had to find this out. Someone mentioned that Furiosa's younger actress actually has CGI on her face the whole time to make her look like Anya Taylor-Joy. So then I looked it up and I'm like, oh yeah, the actress, whoa, she looks different. I had no idea that was even going on. And I was like, wow, that's actually really amazing.
Wow. Compliments to the CG department.
Yeah, it worked really well. And I was just like, dang, I didn't even know they were doing that. So again, there are moments where it's working, some moments where it doesn't work. However, I do feel like overall the product works really well. One of the things I just love George Miller for is obviously the post-apocalyptic. I've mentioned this before. The post-apocalyptic world is something that he kind of had a hand in creating. And when he first started out, obviously he was breaking new ground. So he chose to shoot it in kind of like washed out colors, very dry, making the world look pretty much dead because everything is dead. Yet when he came back to do these movies, now that we're in the future and so many other post-apocalyptic movies, games based itself around what George Miller had set up, he was like, you know what? I'm going to take it in the opposite direction. And I'm going to turn the contrast up. We're going to turn everything up and we're going to make oranges blues.
A bit more colorful.
We're just gonna make it so vibrant. And,
Yeah.
and I was just like, wow, that's a unique choice.
Yeah,
Like,
it gives it a more unique spin, and it definitely stands out compared to a lot of post-apocalyptic things coming out today too. So
and it really gives the world just like a very vibrant look.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow, this is like looks very, very different, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But then he also relies on some old camera tricks as well. Obviously, back in the day when they would shoot movies and stuff and they would have to do nighttime sequences, what you'd always have happen is just like pretty much a heavy, heavy, heavy color correction. And he falls back on some of those tricks as well in these nighttime sequences. I know, especially for a fact in Fury Road, they're all shot during the day, yet he color corrects everything so heavily that it's like the old Western trick. You make it look like it's nighttime. And
cool.
And that's why everything looks so well lit. It looks like the moon's so bright, and you're just like, whoa. And I don't know. I think that's really cool. But yeah, second chapter, great. And then the third chapter, now we're finally introduced to Anya Taylor-Joy, who is pretty much the first name on the billing list.
On the poster, yeah.
Yeah.
Which surprised me. Again, I thought she was just going to play a massive role in the whole film, but she really doesn't, again, come into play until like an hour into the movie.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, she's fantastic. She really embodies the performance really well. She gives just such a fantastic performance, even though like she doesn't really say a lot of lines. She really, you can still understand how she's feeling, and especially like the later moments in the film and everything.
There's a great time lapse in the movie. Little younger Furiosa ends up like dropping part of like a wig on a tree.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a great foreshadowing that comes into play later. And the end is built into the beginning with this film also.
And it just shows the passage of time. You see this tree grow further and the wig's still there. And you're just like, whoa, she's been there a while, you know? But however, she did escape a Morton Joe's vault. And what's in his vault are his most prized possession, which you find out are just women.
Yeah.
And he uses them to breed his sons so that way he could have.
That scene was really disgusting with like the fetus and everything.
Crazy.
One thing I wanted to talk about too also is like how you get to see both sides of the coin, where Furiosa is with Dementis at first, and then she's with Immortan Joe, and you see both sides of how, like just the environment she's in and how she's feeling at that moment. I thought it was really cool to get to see how both of these villains handle like being in the wasteland and everything.
Yeah.
I thought it was really well done, and something I picked up on the second time seeing it.
Yeah. And it shows, again, like how she's viewed towards people. Dementis may want something more as like, you know, a father-daughter relationship.
Yeah.
Immortan Joe clearly is just like, you're going to go in the vaults of my wives. And it's just like, wait, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And you see right when she goes in, a baby's being born and then it's deformed. And Immortan Joe is just disappointed and that's it. And then baby ends up dying and the wives are like, no, I can give you a perfect son. I'm sorry. And it's just like, dang, like these people are pretty much just commodities. And I'm just like, wow, this is so messed up. Again, the world just kept surprising me with how gruesome it could be, how far it could go.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, after that time jump, Furiosa, older Furiosa, had escaped that vault and is now in the Citadel still, but she's hiding.
She's like infiltrating as like what was it called again?
A war boy, technically, or like one of those like black tars who work on the cars, pretty much.
And I like that they kind of rather like show than tell like how her appearance changes also with like why she's bald.
Yeah,
you know, as like a way to kind of just be able to infiltrate that Citadel and everything. I thought that was like really cool, like design choice and everything.
Yeah, really, really awesome. And it shows her, this time has passed, yet she still has a very, very distinct motivation of, I need to get back home. Mm-hmm. No matter how long it's been, that still seems to be her goal. It's
still her motivation. And I love that the film still commits to that motivation rather than giving her like some new motivation. Or whatever.
And it really shows that this character is damaged. She has seen some messed up shit, yet she still has hope that one day she's going to be back where she should be, you know? And I think that is just one of the big parts of this movie and Fury Road is just, you know, showing that hope can still exist.
Even in a wasteland like
Crazy world, you know?
Yeah.
Third act sets up her relationship with another character called Praetorian Jack.
who is one of my favorite characters in the film, easily for me.
So cool. George Miller really kind of stated this, which I found very interesting. I guess while he was writing this character, he didn't really put two and two together that this was someone like Max. Yet when I was watching it, I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of meant to resemble Max in a movie that he's not in.
Yeah.
And he's very much like Max, all the way down to the jacket he wears. I'm sorry. I'm like, how did you not know this is like Max? But whatever. It sets up this guy who's kind of like a legend to all these people, you know, all the war boys and everything. They're like, that's Praetorian Jack. He's done all these missions on the Fury Road.
Yeah.
But he doesn't see himself in that way, you know, unlike Dementis, unlike Immortan Joe.
He doesn't have a big ego.
Yeah, that's not what it's about for him, you know. And you can tell that he is intrigued by Furiosa and pretty much wants to serve as like a mentor, pretty much. Sets up this whole sequence where Furiosa is trying to escape. She hides bike, travel materials, all that stuff underneath this giant semi-truck, basically.
The war rig, which is such an awesome, cool truck.
So cool.
Especially like with like the back of like the truck and everything. It has like those like little wheels, like
crazy.
It's so awesome.
And it's just like chrome and everything. It looks really cool.
Yeah.
And I'm not a car guy. I don't really care much about cars. Like if it runs, I'll drive one.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is with these two movies. It made me really appreciate like cars and everything.
Yeah.
And
I feel like the cars too in this film like play such a vital role, and they feel like almost like a character in of itself. You know, it shows the personality of like Furiosa or like of Jack, or even with Dementis with his chariot motorcycles, you know. They all kind of resemble just the character's personality almost.
Yeah. And it really does show that even in a post-apocalyptic world, no matter wherever humanity ends up or where we've been in the past, we're always going to have that innate ability to put a creative spin on something. You put care, you create works of art. The cavemen drew on caves way back before any of us were here. There was just something that always us as humanity is very inclined to do, and to make things artistic, make things beautiful. And it shows that even in this post-apocalyptic world where everything's damaged and stuff like that, the world's torn apart, we as humanity still have the very innate ability and need to create works of art and make something that defines them, you know? And like Wallieds said, these cars show that. They show that they put in this care. They see it as like an extension of their themselves, an expression pretty much.
Yeah.
Which is what art is, you know? And that's true. I'm like, humanity and everything, that's something that we're always going to be inclined to do, you know?
Yeah.
Which I just love. Again, it just feels so real.
It adds a lot, again, to the world and just everything you're watching. And it made me appreciate it even more than when I saw it the first time. It's like, how did I not even like pick up on that?
Yeah,
you know?
just super amazing. So she's on this, hiding on this war rig pretty much. And this is we're already like an hour and so into it. And we're finally getting like one of the bigger set pieces of the film.
Yeah.
And obviously it feels like Fury Road, yet they do some really cool stuff with it. When this action sequence started out, I'm just going to say like I was in awe of what I was watching. I couldn't believe it.
It's like, how did this get made?
Insane. Like there's a shot in here that I just love so much, and I don't know how it was done. This is the movie magic. This is really why I love movies is seeing how they pull off this stuff.
Yeah.
There's fighting on the ground, and they show that this sub biker gang that's helping out Dementis and things. They have like these pretty much propellers and stuff that lift them off the ground, and they're in the sky, and they have parachutes and things like that. The shot is like on the side, and it shows this guy riding alongside the war rig. Then he's like skating on the sand. Then out of nowhere, he turns on the propeller, and then it lifts him up. And I at this whole point while I'm watching this, I'm just like, how the hell this camera follows him up, and then it switches viewpoints like behind. And I was like, this is like the most impressive thing because it looks so real. And I'm like, how did they film this?
So seamless too. I mean, I don't know if they're like cuts or anything,
Yeah.
but like, man, just the editing and the transitions in that sequence are just phenomenal.
And it really, it feels like Fury Road, and you can always appreciate the stunt work and everything involved. Obviously with John Wick, they have these long tracking shots like this to show off the stunt work, show off, like if you start cutting, it kind of seems like you're trying to hide something. And that's done on a very good level, very amazing level. Love John Wick.
Yeah, it never takes you out of the movie, obviously.
I would never know how to handle this when you have cars driving, when you have people in the air. I'm just like, no. If I was filming this, I would not take on that challenge.
There's no way. That had to be at least like a year of like just filming that one sequence for the film. Like, it had to have been, because that's how it feels watching it, because it's so detailed. There's so much care and time put into it.
Yeah. And that set piece to me is just amazing. I just love everything that goes on in there. It kept surprising me with how it was done. And yeah, just you just see a very awesome set piece, yet the character motivations involved. Furiosa is just trying to escape. She didn't know that all this stuff was going to happen. And basically what ends up happening is she ends up getting kind of stranded pretty much. The only ones who had survived was her and Praetorian Jack. Everyone else dies, and it's really gruesome with some of the deaths and stuff.
Yeah. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, the violence in this movie is
like
crazy.
He pulled no punches with this one.
Yeah. And yes, I will say during this sequence, some CGI does stand out, but I feel like
it doesn't take you out. At least in this sequence, it didn't really take me out. I didn't really notice it.
But towards the end, Furiosa is kind of recruited by Praetorian Jack. He knows what she was doing, what she was planning, and he wants to become a mentor to her, and he wants to help her achieve her goal, which I felt was very surprising. I was like, in a world where you see all these people fight for themselves, and
the one person that like wants to help out, it's like, whoa, what?
And it really shows, again, like he's not ego driven. It's not about
driven.
Yeah, it's not about being the greatest driver on the Fury Road or anything. To him, it's something different that motivates him. And he's very much meant to show a contrast to all the men we've been introduced into this movie.
Yeah, because they're all kind of power hungry, abusive.
Yeah.
Pretty manipulative people.
Yeah, from there, it just keeps going. And there's just so many awesome sequences and everything. And their relationship is very subtle. It's not really very clearly defined on what it is. I feel like there are kind of romantic implications that are kind of implied. But then obviously this is a mentor-student type of relationship too. So I'm like, maybe not. Maybe
I would say they're kind of more like friends.
Yeah,
I would say.
I feel like there's a respect there almost. Like to me, some people have said romantic, and I can see why they would get that, but I didn't really feel like that.
Yeah, and I'm glad it doesn't force that like relationship and like a romantic relationship, because that's an issue I have with some films where they have like a girl character and they need to fall in love with like the guy in some way, shape, or form. I'm glad that the film doesn't do that, because I feel like it would have ruined like the relationship and pace of the film.
Pirates of the Caribbean 4, the mermaid and dude just random relationship. Sorry. But yeah, I guess there's like some time passage, and they show that these guys work together very, very well.
Yeah.
And they kind of become very, very trusting of each other. You can just tell that
It's probably like the first person she's trusted in like probably a decade.
yeah, and there's a bond there, you know. And throughout that whole time, you haven't seen Dementus in a while. The last time you had saw him was that interaction with the Morton Joe when he traded her off. And he becomes like the leader of Gastown, one of the fortresses of a Morton Joe's kind of reign, pretty much. And then when he's introduced back, they go on this basically delivery run to Gastown to collect and trade food and stuff.
Yep.
I wasn't ready for how they were gonna handle that, but pretty much Dementus is like hiding. He's like a coward. The people there hate him. He's very much like a failed leader, and there are riots. Everything is just in chaos, and you can tell Dementus has no charge or anything. And I was just like, whoa, this is different than how I would picture them kind of portraying a villain, you know?
Yeah.
It really shows that he's
a broken character for sure.
yeah, very cowardly. And I was just like, wow, this is really cool. This is really different.
Yeah,
you know?
like on the outside, he portrays himself as more like an intimidating kind of villain, but like on the inside, it's like he clearly doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah. But he wants to make everyone believe like he does. You know? But basically, he's lost control of this place. And pretty much they start to riot. And they're trying to take over the war rig from Furiosa and Praetorian Jack. And Dementus ends up helping them escape from this crazy place. But then he also says, you know, I need to meet with the Morton Joe. I have to discuss what's going on here. And pretty much I need help taking back over this facility, which there is some humor involved, but it's also just, again, I think they're just setting up a good contrast. And he wants to meet with the Morton Joe in a couple days, pretty much. I guess he is trying to manipulate himself out of this place to become the ruler of not only Gastown,
but of the Citadel.
The Citadel, the Bullet Farm, and he's trying to take a Morton Joe's place. And slowly you start to realize what was going on. He's basically creating chaos to overthrow someone who doesn't support those ideals pretty much.
I would say it's more like an anarchy.
Yeah.
Almost.
Crazy.
Which doesn't surprise me for a wasteland, but
yeah. I believe they set up that a Morton Joe is going to meet with him.
Yeah. And they escape out of like Gastown and everything.
Yeah. And they end up doing a supply run to the Bullet Farm.
Yep. Which is also a really incredible sequence too.
Great names, by the way, too. Like Gastown, and you just see like this oil burning, this fire, and then Bullet Farm. I'm just like
bullets everywhere.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
Like, so
again,
creative.
It adds a lot to the world. Again, you know.
And when they go to the Bullet Farm, I love the reveal. The reveal of wait, where like you saw it a little earlier in the film, and there's obviously people, workers everywhere. And when Furiosa and Praetorian Jack show up with their crew, you could tell that not everything's right. And the reveal of the dog who has, what does the dog have, like a leg or something?
Yeah, he has like a robot, or not a robot leg, but like a prosthetic leg.
Yeah, and you're just like, yeah, that was just a cool reveal of like, oh shit. And then the attack starts happening.
I love like I don't know if it was like a fast motion, but like when Furiosa like backs out of like the gate, that was really cool.
And then just reverse it. Yeah. And it's right in the camera view. I was just like, oh my God, this is great. The timing again on planning that, I can't imagine how long that took.
A lot of rehearsing. But.
Yeah. And amazing action sequence.
The sniper, like with Furiosa with the sniper, was really awesome.
So cool. Again, it just ends up being her and Praetorian Jack. Yet because of their relationship and how well bonded they are, they're kind of able to get the upper hand.
Yeah, they're looking out for each other throughout everything.
And the truck starts going down into the bullet farms, going around this spiral, and just like I don't know, just the way this action sequence was set up, you have just such a clear understanding of where these characters are, where the opposition is. You really feel the layout, and in such a grand sequence like this, I would expect some of that stuff to kind of get lost in translation.
Yeah.
Yet the way George Miller is able to block everything, I have a very clear understanding of what I'm looking at. Sometimes in action movies, obviously, things can get blurred and cut together in a weird way to where it's like, okay, wait, where is this? How's this happening? How does this impact?
Yeah,
that?
you don't feel lost during the sequence. You're still like, you still know what's going on. You still know which perspectives you're seeing throughout.
Yeah. Whether it cuts to him in the war rig, whether it cuts to Dementis on the tower, Furiosa sniping, it's very much welly put together sequence. There was obviously a lot of care that went into it, and just some amazing shots like Dementis fires a RPG at Furiosa, and he's very ridiculous in this movie, and it's just like, this guy is just crazy,
And even though he's still ridiculous, it still feels grounded somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but he still feels grounded through everything.
Yeah, and he's very much like just using his men at his disposal and everything. Like at one point, he sends one out to draw out the sniper fire from Furiosa, and the guy gets obliterated, and pretty much the Dementis was just using him to find out where she was. The shot of him like hanging off the ledge and all these bullets are like flying at him. I'm just like,
that was awesome.
So imaginative. I'm just like, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah. And I loved the sound design with like the bullets. It's all,
yeah,
that was really cool.
Really, really cool.
And that's one thing that I really love about this film too, is like the sound design kind of plays a character in of itself, with the engines, with the gunshots, with even just like the ambiance of like just being in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
It still just puts you in just a really fantastic atmosphere, and it really sucks you again into the world that George Miller's created with everything.
Yeah. Basically, Praetorian Jack and Furiosa end up escaping, but they are very quickly pursued. It's kind of crazy. I thought they were out of that situation. I was like, oh, okay, they made it out. Great.
Yeah.
Yet,
and then Dementis with this monster truck.
With his giant monster truck ends up scaling the walls and chasing after them. And it's a really cool chase sequence. They're going over like these basically crevices and stuff.
They're going through like up a hill at one point.
Yeah. Really cool. Really on the edge of my seat. I was just like, is he going to catch them? Like, I have no idea.
Yeah, exactly.
And they do show, which I expected they would. Furiosa's arm ends up getting ran up against the side of a wheel,
which surprised me. It felt like kind of natural to the character. It's like, oh, that would make sense for why she would get her hand, or not her hand, but her arm like stuck, and how she lost it. I'm glad it didn't feel like forced, and it felt like, oh, this is actually how she lost her arm.
Exactly. It felt natural. It wasn't like set up in any
way. It
didn't
feel like a convenient, like a plot convenience.
And they do draw that out too, because her arm does get damaged, but it's not completely taken off until a little bit later on. Dementis ends up capturing them pretty much. And again, the gruesomeness of this scene really, I was not expecting. They tie Praetorian Jack to this motorcycle.
Really? Just, oh my God, it was really dark.
Such a great way to shoot it too. Like he ends up getting dragged pretty much, and these dogs are chasing his body.
Yeah.
Furiosa is tied to the monster truck with her arm, and it just cuts to the shot of Dementis, and it just like slowly zooms in on him, and you can just tell that he's just so unsteady. He is so lost in how he is, and it just zooms right in. And I swear this has to be Chris Hemsworth, like his best performance I've seen him give.
Yeah.
There's so much subtleties in the look that he's giving, and you could just tell that feel like he's been beaten, because his whole plan of taking over these facilities and moving on to the Citadel was thwarted by these two.
And again, it shows a really awesome passage of time
Oh my
throughout.
God.
And it
And that
probably has
just,
to be one of the most creative passage of time sequences I think I've seen.
and it just shows the brutality of everything. Like, oh yeah, Praetorian Jack was getting dragged that whole time. So
Yeah.
he's gone. They don't ever show it, but by not showing it, it says a lot more.
It's that implication that I feel like makes it even more sadder.
And after that passage of time, they check on Furiosa, and all they see left is her arm hanging there, chained up to the truck. Some people might say, how did that happen? How did they not notice that? However, in the
It
scene
was
before,
clouded though.
yeah, it was the cloud, but in the scene before, if you watch it, there's one of Dementus's people who basically you can tell that he's not aligning with Dementus in how this is being done. You know, that he feels like they're going too far. So I think it's implied that that guy somehow helped in her escape. And then it just cuts to her on a bike. She's just driving. Obviously, her arm's bleeding.
That zoom in was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that quick zoom in, like on her face was like really
Yeah.
awesome. And it like really showed like the intensity of that scene
Yeah.
and just everything she went through.
And that's like a George Miller kind of staple, those zoom ins and stuff. He uses them a
gotcha.
lot. And again, I would say I'm not the biggest fan of zoom ins. I feel like sometimes I don't get why they're done. Yet George Miller really uses them to portray that anguish, that despair, and really show their face in this larger than life moment, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really great. And it shows her escaping. She just becomes pretty much vulture food at that point. And we get a really cool shot, a really cool little Easter egg. It shows Max. He is,
Oh, so that was Max.
yeah.
Okay. For some reason, I thought it was Praetorian Jack, and I was like, wait, how did he survive?
Oh.
But, yeah. So, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right.
It shows Max. Obviously, for fans, you recognize the car right away. It's the Interceptor.
I see.
If I were to ever win the lottery, that would probably be one of my first purchases is the Interceptor. I just love that car. You see it, it's all blacked out. Max is eating probably a can of dog food, and you can tell he sees Furiosa off in the distance. Really cool for them to put that in there. Obviously, when they meet in Fury Road, that was their first time meeting, but it was really cool to show that, you know, he's very much still a part of this world, you know. They didn't have to put it in there, but obviously fanboys like me, I really love seeing it. It was just a nice little moment.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
However, I have had some confusion with this. I don't know if it's implied that he takes her back to the Citadel, because in the next scene, she's being dragged, and I don't know if the people in that underground little area that she's in pulled her back, or if it was implied that Max took her back and then left her. I don't know.
I kind of made the assumption it was Max was the one who like took her back, especially because like kind of maybe saw her and maybe like the ground people didn't see her. So
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe it was Max, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
It's something I'd have to watch again and maybe pick up on and see if I can maybe get an idea of.
And when she wakes up, there's a
really disgusting scene.
It's like a body horror moment. Like, oh my God.
How much worse could it get?
You just imagine waking up. You're just like, where the hell am I? You see all these old people. You see her
like
arm.
Worms.
Oh my God. I was just like, what? This is insane. She's right near the Citadel in that little underground area. They ended up helping her.
Somewhat.
Yeah, somewhat, I guess.
But it shows you the brutal nature of like the side of the world you don't really see. You get glimpses of throughout. So
Yeah.
I love that they had one scene of it.
Yeah. And sets up her revenge.
Her revenge arc.
Amazing. She ends up going to Morton Joe and really kind of standing her own to this guy, to all these leaders of these areas, and basically saying, I know what to do. I know how we need to get this done.
Yeah, it shows you like she's become like a strong leader at this point, especially from working with like Praetorian Jack and seeing And even working with both the Morton Joe and Dementis earlier in the
Yeah.
film, you know, you
She's-
see she becomes like her own person.
Yeah, and at that point, she's not just an observer anymore of this world. Now she's making her own imprint in this story and everything. Because it felt like very much leading up to it, you just see her reactions to the things around her and everything. And now it's like, okay, I processed all this. I've learned from all this. I've had betrayals. I've had all this happen. Now I'm driving the wheel pretty much.
Yeah.
And yeah, they set up her revenge arc. Really cool. One of the guys has like a card for her, and it's like this broken down.
And it has like one wheel missing.
It's like a stick on it. I was like, that's crazy. That's crazy. But it sets up, I guess, like this. What do they call it? Like the 100-Day War or something.
Yeah, he mentions like 100-Day War that happens, and he mentions like a bunch of other wars too. In that sequence.
I swear, I was like, oh man, they're gonna set up this crazy conflict. We're gonna see this whole battle, and they don't show it. And I was like, wow, I would not expect that to happen.
That also surprised me first time seeing it. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, and I obviously now that I'm looking back on it, everyone. Granted, we'll talk about Fury Road in the future, but everyone does say, without spoilers, that it feels like a third act. And now watching Furiosa, I kind of understand, okay, why they didn't show it. And especially when you watch Fury Road, you know why they didn't show this war sequence, why they didn't take too much time to show it. But we'll get into Fury Road eventually.
Okay.
But yeah, again, totally surprised me. It stuck to her story when I felt like they could have added, not that they needed to or not that I wanted it, but if they wanted to, they could have. They could have added more spectacle, more car sequences exploding, but it didn't really pertain to her character.
Yeah, it felt more like a character study, I would say, more than anything.
And they just show like quick little montages of, fighting and things like that. And then it's kind of glossed over. But now we see Fury.
I like Rectus's last time we get to see him. Where he's stop.
He tries to run after.
I thought that was probably like the funniest moment for me. I was just seeing Rectus one last time trying to stop Furiosa.
He steals the car. Or she steals the car.
Yeah.
And we finally see her look in Fury Road. She's got the arm on, the arm that she built. She's got the black paint on her forehead, the goggles.
Her hair is shaved off one last time.
Yeah, and I'm just like, okay, this is it. And
it's very satisfying, very rewarding.
Yeah, and she's able to find where Dementis is. There's a very cool chase sequence where they're like trying to outplay each other.
Yeah.
Dementis tries to trick her, like, oh, you're following this person, this and this. And then we get to the end of the film, which is a very, very... Again, surprising and
it's a standoff.
Yes,
it's like a Western standoff almost.
It's just very quiet, very, very much. It's just these two characters, and it's what's been driving them this whole time. And Dementis has a really, really great monologue, and I just loved it. I ate it up, and I was just in awe. I was in awe of what I was watching, and again, it subverted my expectations because when I watch Fury Road, it's so different that there's not moments like that. And when this film had these moments, I was just like, wow, okay, they're doing something very, very different from what we've seen before. Yeah, and the whole revenge sequence is played out, yet the moment we've been waiting for, her extracting her revenge and taking it out on Dementis, is left to interpretation.
And I love that they show different interpretations of how she killed him.
Amazing.
Especially that last one.
Yeah, the very quick, obviously, first one, she shot him. And you see the history man telling the tale of what had happened. First one, she shoots him. The second one, she drags him.
Like she did with Praetorian Jack.
Yep. And then he says something that was whispered, I guess, to him by her. Oh my God. All right. So they set up the world, okay? They call bullets the anti-seed. You plant one in someone or something and you watch it die. This whole time, Furiosa has had this seed that she's kept with her that is almost like it's a seed, obviously, for like a tree. And I think it was they were playing off the whole thing they were setting up with these bullets and how they work. She plants this seed inside Dementis, and it's in the spot that her and Praetorian Jack were at earlier in the film when they have that emotional connection. And it pretty much shows that she's never going to get her life back. It's gone. Whatever she's striving for herself is now gone. And she planted this seed in Dementis, and pretty much it's growing out of him.
Yeah.
Gruesome, very gruesome. And he's barely kept alive. You can just tell he's like a skeleton at this point, but he's still there. And that is how she extracted her revenge.
And I love that she picks out like was it a plum or apple?
Yeah.
From the tree. And again, it's a great end built into the beginning because that's how the film begins.
Yeah.
Is her picking out like the apple from the tree, leading up, setting up everything that's gonna happen, And again, I thought it was an awesome, really foreshadowing detail where everything just comes back full circle by the end.
Amazing. And then obviously we get the lead in to Fury Road. She takes the brides from the vault, the wives, and she loads them in the war rig, and the movie ends. And they used unused footage that was shot for Fury Road.
So that's not in the movie.
Yeah.
Okay. I won't be trying to look for those when I see Fury Road.
Oh no. Yeah. I was not ready for this movie. I thought I was going to get something else, yet I was given something that I didn't know I wanted. That is the testament of a good filmmaker. That is the testament of a great storyteller. And yeah, for me, this feels like such a good companion piece to Fury Road without trying to replicate what it had done. Because when you watch Fury Road, it's very much a lightning in the bottle. This took 20 years to make. This is probably not going to happen.
You're not going to
again.
make another movie like this ever again, of course.
So he didn't. He didn't try to replicate it. He didn't try to do it again. He took it in another direction. So for those of you who don't know, George Miller has said that when he was writing Fury Road, he had 3 scripts. One, Fury Road, we've seen, which is the third act. You have Furiosa's setup, which is this story. Then you have a third setup strictly for Max's character before we find him in Fury Road. And it was called The Wasteland. And now I get it, why Fury Road feels like a third act, why it really is its own thing. And I feel like these movies were setting that up, which is very cool because it's not, obviously Fury Road came out first. Now we have this movie, but now we don't know if The Wasteland's ever going to come out.
I hope so after seeing this.
I really hope so. Please. But yeah, this has to be my favorite movie of the year so far. I love everything about it. I can't encourage you guys to see it enough. Yeah, please just try to give it a watch. It's on Max right now, so please, if you can, watch it. You don't have to have seen the other ones to get something out of this movie. There are obviously little references and little nods, but nothing plot-wise that carries on over these films. So I'm very curious to see what happens when Walid watches Fury Road, now knowing that he saw this one first. Because obviously Fury Road is its own thing. But yeah, I love this movie. The only downsides I do have, obviously there are some CGI that stands out, which I get it, when they filmed Fury Road, they were out in the African desert in the middle of nowhere.
Which is insane.
So that way you could have cars drive at 80 miles per hour without speed limits or permits or things like that. You could just film.
That's crazy.
So I get it. Like they didn't want to go through that again because when you hear the stories behind Fury Road,
It sounded like hell.
Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy hated each other while filming that movie. There was just craziness going on that set. So I get it. They're going to do a green screen this time. Let's try to avoid those situations. So obviously CGI can stand out a little bit, but obviously there are some CGI elements that work really well.
Yeah, for sure.
And very stylistic, very, very in service of the vision of this world, Another downside I do have, the soundtrack isn't as good as I wanted it to be.
Really? Okay.
The only musical hints that I did like were reused motifs and stuff from Fury Road. When you watch Fury Road, you'll know exactly what those moments are.
Okay, gotcha.
This soundtrack I felt like it could have done more to stand on its own. Yet the only parts that really stood out were the ones which is weird because it's the same composer, Tom Holkenberg. Yet, I don't know, maybe he didn't have as much time to work on it, or maybe they wanted something more subtle and more quiet.
Yeah. It did feel a bit samey throughout, for sure. I guess that would be my one issue with the soundtrack. But I would say for some moments, it did hit pretty hard. Like I did mention the beginning with Dementis' intro, I thought was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did feel kind of the same, though. Like it was like building up a lot.
Yeah.
And it was just like, okay, I don't know what the music's supposed to build up to.
Yeah. And it never really had that moment where I was like, what am I hearing? This is amazing,
Gotcha.
So yeah, I have some negatives to the film, but I would say those two are probably it. It's amazingly directed, great acting. Again, I think it's Chris Hemsworth's best performance he's ever given.
I think I would say so.
I just didn't know he was capable of doing that.
His range is fantastic in this film.
And when you watch behind the scenes, his whole accent is based off like one of his uncles and how he used to talk growing up.
Oh, really?
Which I just love.
Nice.
I'm like, that is hilarious. I always like when the mundane stuff influences like these big characters and moments and things. I think that's so funny. But yeah, overall, I really loved it. Score, I'm probably going to give it a 9 out of 10. I think it's amazing, solid. Again, you can have a Mad Max movie without Max and it can still work.
Yeah. Or like a spin-off prequel thing and it still surprisingly works really well.
Yeah.
It's like kind of its own thing. It doesn't feel forced.
And the downsides to it don't really bring it down too much for me. Everything by the end of it still works, and I'm surprised how much I have watched this 2.5 hour movie. Yeah, because normally runtimes can really start to drag on me, but the look and everything in it, I just love so much. And again, this is a movie that really kind of reminds me of why I love movies. That's the best compliment I can give it. But yeah, Walid, what are you thinking score-wise? Or do you have any downsides, things like that?
Yeah, just again, some of the CG just kind of being hit or miss. Just some of the soundtrack choices feeling kind of the same. And then I guess at first I was kind of thinking this was a criticism, but I'm not really sure. I guess just like it does feel a bit open-ended with Praetorian Jack and Furiosa's relationship. And I do kind of wish me at least got maybe like one more scene before that whole sequence happened with like Praetorian Jack and everything.
Yeah.
I guess that would be like my one downside, but it didn't really, again, I thought it was really well done, but that's kind of it for me. I will say the biggest grower of the year. I went from kind of just being like, yeah, it's good, nothing too crazy, probably not going to watch it again, to like honestly kind of being one of my favorite films of the year. I don't know, just seeing it a second time, I got really invested in the characters. I loved how it was kind of telling its story, and just like the whole structure of it kind of felt a bit experimental compared to a lot of other prequel films I've seen. I loved Furiosa as a character, and I love that it was more of just a character study rather than kind of being like more of an action film, which I was expecting. And I don't know, I thought it was really well done in that sense. So for me, score-wise, I would give it I give it a high 8 out of 10 for now.
Nice.
I can maybe see it going up, especially after I see Fury Road, just because I feel like this might be like a really great companion piece to that film. So yeah, I'll say for now, I'll give it a high 8 out of 10. Definitely the biggest grower of the year easily for me, and definitely one that'll be one of my favorites when the year is said and done.
Yeah. At some point, hopefully sooner rather than later, I'd want to discuss Fury Road. I swear when this movie ended, all I wanted to do was go back home and just start Fury Road right away. And it's funny because I had watched it before I saw Furiosa, yet I still wanted to watch it again.
Yeah.
I can't wait to talk about that movie. That movie to me is just a masterpiece in every sense of the word. So hopefully sooner rather than later. Thank you guys for indulging me on this review. I know not anyone went to go see it, and I know people probably don't care.
Well, hopefully this encourages you guys to see this film. And if you're like me, who maybe didn't really connect with it at the beginning and didn't really click, try giving it a rewatch and see if it maybe clicks with you. Because I know for me, like, I don't know if it's maybe just that I knew everything was going to be happening, but I know for me, I got way more invested than when I saw it the first time.
Yeah.
So try to give it another chance if you maybe didn't care for it the first time seeing it.
Yeah, I encourage you to do the same. But thank you guys so much for indulging me and listening to this. These are some of my favorite movies. And again, 10 years ago, I had no idea what this franchise was. I didn't grow up watching these movies or anything like that. Yet it has that same impact as some of my favorite movies. And I really think that's a testament to how the film is made, how it's done. But yeah, we're seeing one of the greats who is in their 80s, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy.
So this is the opposite to what we talk about with some of our other directors who are older. This guy's in his 80s and he still is churning out pretty good work. And it's still consistent. So yeah, it's going to happen. There are instances where it works and where it doesn't. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to this review. I know it's a long one. But please check out Furiosa. And so let me know what you guys think.
Good day and good night, mates.
Later.